Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bay to Bay, featuring speakers from San Francisco down to Monterey Bay. I remember when the internet first started taking off 20 years ago. It was supposed to change the world. It was supposed to bring us all together, erasing cultural and national boundaries. Has it? It has certainly brought us together. It's brought us together with people who are exactly like us. More and more, we use the internet just to find out other people who think like us, act like us, and behave like us. And we cluster together. Is that really what the internet should be used for? How are we supposed to find common ground and come together unless we really engage with the people out there who are different from us, who disagree with us, people whom we may disagree with and not get along all too well with? And that's what I really love about Toastmasters. In Toastmasters, you get people from all over the world and all sides of the spectrum coming together. And this is a place where we can all really listen to one another. Now, in order for us to have any productive discussion at all, we all have to first be effective communicators. And our first speaker for today, he's going to be sharing with us how we can engage ourselves and our audience through the energy that we create in our speech. He is an 8-year veteran of Toastmasters and also a 3-time district champion, so I'm sure we have a lot to learn from him. Please help me welcome Kristian Crump. Lean in.
Have you ever found yourself off balance? Maybe it's dancing with a loved one, maybe playing tennis with a partner, or maybe it's just walking down the street when you could have used a V8. We find ourselves off balance quite often in life, and most of those times it's from external pressures. But here in Toastmasters, we give 10 speeches from the Competent Communicator Manual, and we find those internal pressures busting out from the inside. Most of the time, it shows up in the icebreaker or the very first speech. Tonight, I'm going to talk about 3 different areas of balance in our own bodies that we experience when we're giving speeches. Now, back to that very first icebreaker, when we're nervous and the speaker's not sure what to say. It's the most apprehensive speech of them all because we've never given a speech before. We're not sure what is expected of us. And so the speaker's up front, the knees are knocking, the shoulders are hunched in, the voice is barely getting out. If you were to look at the speaker, all of the weight is on the heels. It's similar to that JBL commercial with the guy in the chair and his sunglasses on with his hair blowing, and all the energy is going towards him. The audience is the same way. If we were to put a microphone to that speaker's head, the monkey mind, you would hear, oh my gosh, why did I do this? 50 eyeballs all staring at me. Imagining they're naked isn't working. But that's part of it. That's what we get to experience the first 3, 4, 5 speeches. We get to feel what is taking place in our bodies. And it's all about us. It's our own reaction to the fear and the anxiety and the joy of public speaking. So we move from this space, all the energy moving forward, into speech number 5 and 6 and 7. We become more effective with our vocal variety and more efficient with our body movement. And you'll see the speaker move from their heels onto the pads of their feet. And they're a little more comfortable. They're a little more centered in their body. They're not so rigid. And you'll see them move a little more around the stage, just enough. And if we put that speaker to the back of the head again, what you would hear is, this is kind of working out. I'm glad I stuck with this. I'm moving and they're following me. Very nice. I made a joke and they just laughed. I made a point and their heads are nodding. Wow, this is pretty cool up here. Look at it. Look at me, everybody. That's the joy of public speaking. That's the joy of Toastmasters. When we move from the very first energy in to now we're comfortable with our bodies. Now, many speakers stay here throughout their entire speaking life, where they're comfortable with themselves, they're comfortable with the content and the context in which they speak. But where we really find the marrow of public speaking, where we find the joys of it, is when we move to section number 3. Not from our heels, not from our feet, but our tippy toes. We lean in to the audience. Then we start to engage the audience. We're comfortable with what they are thinking and feeling and how they're reacting. We're on the balls of our feet with 10 toes gripping the stage, ready to fall into the audience. And if you take that same microphone and put it right in that monkey mind, you'd hear a conversation that said, I'm going to tell a joke and see if they laugh. They just did. I'm going to make a point and see if they nod. They just did. I'm going to make a dramatic, long pause, and they're still here. I love it. This is what it feels like to lean into your audience. There's a purpose why we lean into the audience, because we're comfortable with ourselves. We're comfortable with the content. Now we want the audience to be comfortable. When the audience sees a speaker who is comfortable, the audience relaxes. You see their shoulders relax and their chins up, shoulders back. That makes the speaker more comfortable. And it's a feedback loop that goes back and forth and back and forth. Now the audience is enjoying their environment. The speaker is enjoying their environment. Everyone's having a great time, and it's only because we have learned to lean into the audience. We've gone through those 10 steps. Now, if we take that beginning speaker with the #1 speech and the voice we remember like this, and we bring them to speech number 10, their shoulders are back, their chin is up, and I guarantee you, they have 10 toes on the floor. So I invite each one of you, when you find yourself a little off balance, your partner, dancing partner, is 2 left feet, always knocking you over. Your tennis partner is getting a little more aggressive. Or maybe in Toastmasters, you're feeling a little nervous. I invite each of you in each of those stances to feel those 10 toes gripping in and leaning into your dancing partner, guiding him or her the way you want to go. Guiding into that tennis match. And for the audience, lean in and find out what excites them. Get them to laugh, get them to nod, and you will be a successful speaker. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kristian, for that wonderful speech. Now, you mentioned the series of 10 speeches. Which speech are you on exactly when you delivered this one?
This is speech number 5, Your Body Speaks.
Body Speaks. Wonderful. Now, I love the way you described your icebreaker speech and how it really reminded me of my own first icebreaker speech. I want to hear your story of how did your icebreaker speech go and what was going through your mind?
Oh, boy. I think it lasted about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. And it was terrifying. It was the little boy with the voice in the throat, and it was a quick rundown. Probably it was about 3,000 words in 3 minutes of where I was born, how many sisters I have, how many brothers I don't have, my family life, as quick as I could, because I wanted to get off that darn stage. But then it just progressed and progressed and progressed.
Wonderful. You know, you talked about the joy of speaking. That's a really wonderful feeling. Can you describe when you feel like you really found the joy of speaking? How long into your journey did you find it?
I found it competing in Toastmasters, and where you really engage with the audience and you see a visceral response from what you have to say. It's real time, and we don't experience real time much in this world. And so when you're public speaking and feeling all the fears and you see people nod, it's a great experience.
Great. Thank you, Kristian.
Thank you, sir.
Now, what would Toastmasters be without an evaluation? And here to evaluate Kristian, please help me welcome Rene Gamero.
Thank you, Ranjit. Thank you, Ranjit, and everyone here in Palo Alto on this beautiful Monday evening. I'd say it's a pleasure and an honor to evaluate Kristian Crump today, who I wish I would have seen your icebreaker 6 years ago at the age of 17. When you gave it. It would have been fantastic. But I'm glad Rajiv pointed out that this is a out of the Competent Communicator Manual, speech number 5. Speech number 5 being the body speaks. And I can tell you right now, my body's going to speak very well behind this lectern because I'm not there yet. I don't have those abilities, and it's very impressive that you can just move so fluidly throughout this stage and really capture your audience. And I'm there. I'm that aggressive tennis player. I don't play very well, but I could see myself there. I could see when you had me at the knees knocking, that's when you really grabbed my attention. So it's really great use of motion to connect with your audience, give those 3 points, and tell them the journey that really Toastmasters can take them on. And the structure of being able to do that throughout those 10 speeches, I thought was just an excellent use of it. And I look forward to being able to do it half as well as you do one day. Now, as far as the delivery goes, I feel that everyone connected with you, everyone, even if they don't like V8, they're more of a I don't know, Red Bull kind of person understands what you meant by that. So it just incredible way of connecting with your audience through motion instead of just modulating your voice or maybe whispering or anything, but you really drove that point home with that. So I would say with the combination of the knees knockings, taking us through that journey, making solid eye contact with everyone, I thought it was an excellent example of how you touched on all the points of how to use your body in a speech. So I feel very fortunate to have witnessed that, and I look forward to you buying me a V8 at the end of this program today. Thank you. Rajiv.
Thank you, Rene, for that very detailed and wonderful evaluation. Now, when we started off the program, we talked about the internet and we talked about Toastmasters. Now, can you imagine what's going to happen when you put those two things together? Please watch the following clip to get your answer.
I would now request Jim to read out objectives of P3.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members, and most welcome guests. Gary's project is Get to the Point.
Well, what we just did is we had a telepresence meeting, what's called a point-to-point meeting. So we had two rooms. Half the room is here in San Jose, and the other half that we had was in Singapore. This is a great idea for Toastmasters. I would like to see these meetings occurring at least once a quarter.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
It's essential that Toastmasters learn how to communicate through these new tools. And I think I'd love to see a manual come out, an advanced speaking manual from Toastmasters on emphasizing points. How do we communicate with these new tools?
A lot of information about genomes and singularity and stuff like that. So what I will be doing is to share.
I was expecting that we would have delays in our conversation, but no, it's just like we're talking across the table. So this is great. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Technologies like this are going to get more and more popular, and you'll see different ideas popping up, and the way we communicate in the future is going to change, and I think we're really on to the future here.
And what brings us together is this movement called Toastmasters, and we learn communication and leadership to enhance our communication skills, where we can bring all these skills back to our workplace, back to our family, and back to our society.
I think we're breaking into something new. This is going to be a way that we all need to be comfortable in communicating in the future, and before long there'll be lots of other Toastmaster meetings occurring like this.
For Kim, 1R, 3N. Wish, 1 soul. Giri, 3R, 1 7 soul. Talking, 4
So collaboration is wonderful. Believe in the power of collaboration, and you can definitely achieve more. Thank you so much.
The major paradigm shift of the Homo sapiens is just around the corner. Welcome to the new world.
Excellent. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
It's good to see you. Have a good day.
Engaging with people who disagree with us, leaning in, you may be asking yourself, why does it really matter? Does it really matter what I have to say? To convince us otherwise is our next speaker. He's going to be talking to us about how our actions can change people's lives. And to do so, he'll be sharing with us his own personal experience of how he learned how he can influence people through speech. He's working on his Competent Communicator Manual, project number 10, and his objective is to inspire the audience. Please help me welcome Joseph Fernandez.
It was 8 p.m. and I was heading back home from work. I got a call from my wife. She said, "We need bread, milk, and eggs." I was thinking, I'll go home and take rest. But here I was heading into the grocery store. It was a week before Thanksgiving, which means the grocery stores is going to be busy, crowded, and the clerk is going to be really angry and frustrated. So I thought, I'm tired, I don't want to do this, but I knew if I was to go back home without those eggs, bread, and milk, my night was going to be even more disastrous. So I walk into the grocery store, it was packed, I pick up those things, and I head to the clerk, and I see a beautiful smile. I tell him, you must be having a wonderful day today. It's so busy and still smiling. And what he told me changed the way I looked at life. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members and guests, he told me, you are special. You've come here to buy something important, and I want to make sure that your purchase is important as well. I thought, wow, that is amazing. Here I was trying to be angry, frustrated, and he was doing his regular job, and he still thought about me and that I was special and always showed positive energy. As I was driving back home, I was thinking, all those times where I have never thought about the other person was always about me. So when I went home, I hugged my wife and I told her, thank you for that call. That call has taught me a really good lesson. I told her that everything that I do, everyone that I meet is important and special. So when I play with my kids, I no longer want them to do things for me. It was always about how to make them important and special. I joined Toastmasters a year ago, and I became the VP of membership. And the club goal said, get 8 members. My goal was get 8 members. So every guest that came in, I used to ask them, are you going to join Toastmasters? After that event, I decided it's no longer about me trying to get members into the club. It's about the member or the guest and what they want from Toastmasters. When I changed it, the entire club's dynamics changed. We were about 15 members, now we have 40. And the quality of the speeches that our club gives is amazing. Everything has transformed just because of that one conversation with that clerk. He told me to look at the other person and ask, because you matter. So my question to you is, how often do you think about other people? Do you consider them special? Can you see the thread, that thin thread that connects you and them? Because if you make them special, they will show that same thing to others. Always think about the other person because they are special. So Toastmaster.
Thank you, Joe, for sharing with us that very personal story. Now, I really loved your idea about asking people what they want to get out of the club, as opposed to just putting pressure on them to join. Right. What's the most common reason you hear when you ask people, why do you want to join or consider joining Toastmasters?
Well, initially, when I used to ask them, they used to say, why I'm afraid of public speaking. I want to join Toastmasters for public speaking. And I want to just stand in front of the lectern and just give speeches. But then I wanted to understand, well, everybody has fear of public speaking. But if you break that down, they come back and tell you specifically what they don't like. Like they don't like to stand in front of people and talk, or they don't like to talk about a certain topic. There are various things. When you break that down, then you can know what they really don't like, and then you work towards getting them to solve that problem one step at a time. When you go into their minds, it becomes easier for us to solve the problem. And that's what I've done with our Toastmasters.
That's great. Going from 15 members to 40 members, that is a great accomplishment. So congratulations to you and your club. Tell me, how does it feel for your club to be growing so quickly, so fast?
Well, when you have a club that's growing rapidly and everyone wants to speak, it becomes a challenge as well, because there's more people, more new members, and everyone wants stage time. So you have to balance it out and figure out new ways of getting the members to speak. So we started creating new programs that help the members to have more stage time, and that's great. That's a great way of helping them out.
That's wonderful. Could you tell us a little bit more about these new programs that you created?
Yeah, at Foster City, I'm part of the Foster City Toastmaster. What we did is we created a program called the Fast Track program. So if you're given your icebreaker and you have your speech number 2 all the way through 6, then we help them to work on those.
Great. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for sharing with us your very personal story. Now, to evaluate Joe, please help me welcome Joe's evaluator, Dennis Chase.
No matter what people tell you, words and ideas can change the world. That was a line given to the late Robin Williams in the movie Dead Poets Society. And I thought it was a particularly appropriate quote for what I knew Joseph was going to talk about, how the little things that we do, or sometimes the big things that we do, can really change the world of the people around us. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Joseph, today I'm going to be talking about the things that I really liked in Joseph's speech, the things that I think we can emulate and maybe make our own. A few small recommendations that I have when you give this speech again, you might want to consider doing, and then end with the thing that I liked best about the speech. I really liked the fact that, Joseph, you started with a personal story we can all relate to. I think we've all been at times going to a store late in the evening, not wanting to be there, but having a sense of obligation to get the things that we need for our daily lives. So it was something that we could really easily relate to. I like that you used the space really well too. You started over on this side, you came back to it seemed very natural and a nice outpouring of your speech to be able to use the space in that way. I really liked your timing and your pauses and your flow. It seemed like you were just having a normal conversation with us versus giving a prepared speech. And I thought that worked really well in your favor. One of the things I liked the best were your choice of words. You use words like transformation and special. So I think when we do a prepared speech, we can think about how those word choices can really help achieve the objectives of the speech, as you did well, to really influence people and to try and raise their thought process and get them thinking about how they can change other people's worlds. One of the things that you asked me to pay attention to were your gestures and your movement and your pacing, and I thought those were all well. A specific suggestion that I have is you had 2 different characters in the speech, and consider approaching them in different ways, either with a different body stance or a different voice, so that we can tell when you're doing one character versus the other. It helps us separate them, or maybe have one character speak from here and the other one speak from here, just so we can more easily separate them in our minds. That might make it a little bit easier to know who's speaking when. I think the thing I liked best about the speech was your choice of topic. It's a great choice for an inspirational speech, something we could all relate to. How we can each do something, even though it may seem small at the time, but we can each do something to change the worlds of people around us. You gave excellent examples of talking to your children, and especially talking to the grocery clerk. So I want to thank you for giving us this speech and telling us how we can each change the world with our words and our actions every day. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dennis, for the second wonderful and detailed evaluation. You know, we started off the night by talking about how the internet can bring us all together. Now, this may not be so right now, but it can be. I challenge all of you to do the following. Find someone whom you disagree with and talk to that person, respectfully and nicely. Try to find out why they believe in the things that they do. Even if you disagree with them, that's fine, but try to learn something and walk away from it a little bit wiser than you were before. Try to explain to that person nicely and respectfully why you believe in things that you do. Even if they disagree with you, that's fine. At least they'll walk away from it knowing that you believe in it with the best of intentions in mind. The internet can be a place where bubbles form. We all tend to follow our friends on Facebook who are just like us. We go on Twitter and we read only the things from people who believe in the same things we do. We watch the news channels who are either left-wing or right-wing or whatever ideology that you subscribe to. But the internet can break beyond just these simple bubbles. We can go beyond these bubbles and find out people who are different from us, but people whom we can respect nonetheless. We can try to learn from each other no matter where we may come from, what culture we may belong to, or what beliefs we have. And that is the real power of the internet. It can bring us all together. It may not be doing so right now, but it certainly can. And that is also why we're here in Toastmasters, because communication is truly one of the most wonderful things. It helps us to explain ourselves and also to understand what other people are saying. It teaches us to be better communicators and also to be better listeners. That is why we're all here in Toastmasters. To find out more, you can visit us on d4tm.org or on toastmasters.org. Thank you for watching Bay to Bay, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, Dennis.
Very nice job.